If you're someone who's high performing, like you're very successful, you've basically got your career, your gym, finances down, but for your relationships, it feels kind of empty. You know that there's something off, but you can't quite pinpoint what it is. But you don't feel great in your relationship. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what is happening, why it's happening, and what you can actually do about it so that you can get an actual real step to make today. Before we get started, my name is Lee Carlam and I help high performing men with their relationships through gaining clarity and actually developing a real in depth relationship that is not superficial, because that's not what we're here doing on this channel. So, like I said, you've got everything down pretty much in your life, but it's your relationships that feel off. Now, here's the thing that most people like you get a bit wrong. So, usually in those aspects, right? Your career, your finances, or even going to the gym, the more time you put in and the more effort you put in, you get better results, you get more results. It makes sense. You spend more time in the gym, you concentrate more at work, you learn more skills at work. Well, of course, the result is more money, a raise, a promotion, a better physique. But when it comes to relationships, that's where you get it wrong, because that's not it. It doesn't work like that in relationships. And why is that? There are many, many, many different factors in a relationship that come into play, I'm sure. Pretty obvious. Number one thing that you have to remember in relationships is that it's bidirectional. Every single relationship is bidirectional, meaning that the other person will influence you and you will influence the other person, whether it's through the beliefs that you have, which then affect your thoughts, what you think of the other person, what you think of the world. And they're going to think of the world in a different way. They're going to have other beliefs that you might not have. Or another thing is the past. Your past and her past are different. And that's how people develop different beliefs and different thoughts, thus different actions. And not only that, but of course, weaknesses and strengths, traits, etc. It's pretty obvious. In relationships, it's always going to be two or more people. In a romantic relationship, usually two people, but of course, some people are polygamous. Anyway, I digress. So as you can see, there is a huge contrast between the success in the rest of your life compared to relationships. And especially having that contrast as someone who's high performing, it almost feels like you've achieved so many things in your life. But it's like, why is it that this one aspect, this one area in my life, I just can't get down? You can't even pinpoint what's happening. Luckily, I'm here to help. So now, these are the three main factors. I actually haven't given a name to this, but I guess I could call it the DAR. The DAR triad. The DAR triad. So D for disconnection, A for arguments, R for resentment. So what even is this triad? It basically is three repeating patterns in relationships that quite often happen, that I see all the time. Disconnection. And the thing is about disconnection is that it comes both from resentment and arguments. Okay, this is kind of the root of it all, or the result of a relationship that is not going so well. You eventually become so disconnected from that other person, which then obviously results a breakup, a divorce, cheating, and things like that. Not to say that there aren't any other reasons, but one of the main reasons, it will always almost end up being disconnection that ruins a relationship and that makes a relationship pretty darn superficial. So, if we go into detail about each and one of these before we continue, sorry, I should have clarified this, but resentment, we're going to go into detail for each one, but just to give a kind of quick brief overview before we do, resentment is when you basically don't say what you want in the spot, and then over time you kind of start to develop this dislike towards the other person, which is really unfortunate. That is like the number one drivers also for disconnection, as well as just overall arguments. And it doesn't have to be this one huge major problem that is happening. It can be multiple minor arguments, disagreements that stack up one on top of another. Okay, so first things first is disconnection. This is the first in the dark triad that is actually truly the core of everything, okay? So this is what happens when you feel loneliness. It causes loneliness, it causes you feeling empty, it causes you especially to be misunderstood and to feel that no one actually gets you. And that is the most terrible feelings to have in a relationship, or even in general, where you're around so many people, you're around people who love you, you know they love you, you know they care about you, but for some reason, you never feel like anyone understands you. You never understand why you feel lonely. And also, cheating can definitely come from feeling disconnected. I'm not justifying it, I'm not saying it's right, it's obviously wrong, but that is one of the causes of cheating. Because then you feel disconnected and you're wondering, why does no one get me? And then there's that lack of intimacy and you're just never in the mood. Things like that. And number 2 of the Dar triad is, actually should be, arguments. Arguments goes first. Easily causes frustration. And you might be thinking, is it miscommunication? Most people think it's miscommunication, which can be part of it, but is it really the root cause? Because as you are a high performer, executive, lawyer, doctor, engineer, whoever you are, entrepreneur, business owner, I don't know, you're good at communication. Let's be real, you communicate pretty decently, for the most part, depending. There's some engineers, some lawyers that I've talked to, which are not so great at communicating, but I digress. It's pretty easy to get this down, okay? Communicating well, using your words. But the real problem is when you lack expression of your actual thoughts and feelings and emotions. And I'm not saying that you need to cry. I'm not saying you need to throw things around. But to actually articulate what you express. You're not just trying to convey the message that you're trying to get across. You're not just trying to solve the issue, solve the problem, solve the disagreement, but actually express what you truly want to. And when you don't do that, guess what that causes? That causes disconnection. And not only that, it causes the third thing in the Dar triad, resentment. Because then you don't feel understood. And then they also say that they love and care about you, but then you feel like, well, why do I feel so misunderstood? Why do I feel like no one actually cares about me? And then you start to harbor this dislike and this resentment towards your partner. Now, going deeper into resentment, like I said, dislike starts to happen. Not only that, disrespect. Disrespect comes as a result of resentment. That moment you start resenting someone, that moment you start disliking them, the moment you start to find things that you can critique about them is the moment you develop disrespect towards them. That is seriously terrible, terrible, terrible in relationships. And then, of course, anger comes from resentment. When you're feeling like you really don't like what they did, and then you wish you told them that they didn't say that, you wish you told them that they shouldn't have treated you that way, you're passive aggressive. You don't say it in the moment, but afterwards, you show your anger and you show your dislike and you show your disrespect and your frustration through other modes of communication, which don't even relate to the actual initial argument or the actual initial problem. So if you're going to be passive aggressive, just please don't in the first place. Because then this Dar triad, you don't want to mess with this Dar triad, because seriously, it's going to destroy relationships. But it's always fixable because I have a solution. But before we deep dive into the solution, there are some things you need to understand. Do you want a superficial or a deep relationship? Most superficial relationships rely on the typical relationship advice. I don't do that. I like to go deep down into self-actualization, which is actually almost the next thing. Then, not quite the next thing. Apparently I don't have that written down. No, I missed it. My apologies. Here it is, self-actualization. That's what I was looking for, okay? You're wondering, what in the world does self-actualization have to do with relationships? If you think about it, if you don't understand yourself well enough, but at the same time, if you don't have a good enough relationship, then you're only ever going to have a superficial relationship. If you don't even know yourself well enough, how are you going to understand why you don't want to say certain things, why you don't want to be vulnerable, why you don't want to share things to your partner? If you can't even answer that about yourself, how do you expect to develop an actual deep relationship with another person when you don't even have a proper deep relationship with yourself? When you don't even understand yourself, how can you understand someone else? So this is where Maslow's hierarchy comes into play. I also showed this on my previous video, and we'll probably be repeating this multiple times because this is seriously the most important thing that you have to be aware of when your goal is to achieve a deep, true, fulfilling, meaningful relationship. What is this? I didn't write everything down, but I'm going to say it anyway. So down here is usually the physiological needs. Okay, so sorry, I should have explained this earlier, but Maslow's hierarchy is basically all the human needs. Okay, so the bottom, you need to get to the bottom. You have to fulfill the bottom in order to get to the top. So the bottom would be physiological needs, things like water, things like food, sleep even. Second layer is safety and security. So you have shelter. Are you in a safe environment or are you stressed? Third one would be love and belonging. Second one is, how did I forget the second one? My apologies. Sorry, I'm thinking about the second one. Okay, well, the top one is self-actualization. That's what I know. Sorry, I'm blanking out completely. You know what? Let me check this. I literally had it in my previous video, but yeah, also, you don't need to completely fulfill the bottom layers in order to get to the top. You can still have a bit of the bottom, a bit at the top. Right, self-esteem. Okay, sorry about that. So self-esteem, things like confidence, self-concept, the way you see yourself, etc. Okay, and then self-actualization would be your purpose, your meaning, your passion in your career, what you really came on earth here to do, right? What is your true goal, true overarching goal in your life? Okay, so that's Maslow's hierarchy. So if you understand this, you're going to understand the importance of actually having a deep relationship and why it can actually be so extremely beneficial for you. Because if you lack the love and belonging, which is here, the third tier over here, it's going to be very hard for you to achieve proper self-esteem and self-actualization. If you really think about it, if you don't have a sense of belonging, if you always feel lonely all the time, then that can totally drastically alter how you see yourself, which obviously includes the self-esteem. And if you lack self-esteem, you're going to really find it hard to achieve self-actualization, because if you don't have confidence in yourself, how are you going to have confidence in the things that you're giving out to the world, your value, the passion you have for work, your career trajectory, everything like that? Because when you are around the right people, when you feel heard, when you feel understood, when you feel seen, genuinely feeling like people understand you, that's when people can actually reflect back on you what they think about you, what traits you have. For example, if you go to a work meeting and then someone praises you and they say, wow, that's actually a great idea. You know, you're a pretty smart guy. Well, then you start to think that about yourself, not to say that you need to be completely influenced and only ever influenced by what other people think of you. But as humans, we naturally take in what people think about us. I hate to break it to you, but that is truly one of the truths of life. This is why when we're children, our parents are the number one influencers in how we think about ourselves and how we believe things about ourselves. For example, if you were ever a child at school, even when there's bullies, when there's teachers who mistreat you, they'll say, wow, you're so dumb. You can never achieve anything you want in life. I'm not saying that that is true, that you can never achieve anything you want in life, but does that affect the way you think about yourself? Yes. But you can always change that regardless. But my point being is that when you're around the when you're around the right people, your mindset, your traits that you have, the way you think about yourself will really, really improve. Okay, and it's going to make it so much easier to get to the other top 2 tiers. And also, luckily, if you're watching this, you're a high performer. Luckily, you have the bottom 2 already. Good, because, I mean, probably decently well established. You got a home, you got shelter, food, water. So that's great. Makes everything so much easier. Okay, now, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying about self-actualization. So that's the biggest benefit of being with the right partner. Someone who actually supports you in your goals. Someone who actually understands you. Because then, I mean, think about it. You're not going to spend so much time laying in bed wondering why you're feeling lonely. Right? You're going to have someone right by your side who understands what you're going through, who can support you in the way that you want. Whether it's in a financial type of way, whether it's in a service, acts of service type of way, whether it's her waking up, making you breakfast type of way, whether it's her just taking care of the house, taking care of the kids. When you have a partner that truly understands what your needs are and what you can benefit the most from, they can help you achieve that. And that will make your life 10 times easier, I promise you. Now, you're wondering, okay, well, is she going to tell me the solution? Yes, I'm going to tell you the solution right now, the top 3 steps. Very, very simple. Okay? We'd call it the OAK, the AUC. The 3 steps to solving this problem. So first, awareness. I mean, this honestly can be applied to any problem that you have. Number 1, you need to gain awareness. And you're like, yeah, obviously, no. I'm telling you, the amount of people who actually don't know what's happening in their relationships is actually astounding. They don't know, but they're having problems. But once you can just know, once you can just identify, okay, there's resentment, or okay, we're having repeated arguments, or okay, I definitely feel a disconnection. Once you gain awareness and you actually admit that there's a problem, you're almost halfway there. So really, this is like step 1.5. Okay, but step 2 would be understanding what's happening. Just like I said, if you can understand the DAR triad, so feeling disconnection, having arguments, and then resentment towards your partner. Once you can understand how those 3 intermingle and how those 3 connect to each other and the causes of those, then you can end up gaining clarity, which is the 3rd step. I always repeat the word clarity because, once again, a very, very common message I will keep repeating in all my videos. You can never fix a relationship. You can only ever gain clarity. I hate to break it to you. A lot of people say that, well, I'm going to help someone be in a relationship. I'm going to help this couple be together. You can't. You cannot. You can't. Even if that's the end goal that you wish to have, even if that's what you hope to have, you can't. Because when you're in a relationship, like I said, it's bi-directional. She's influencing you, you're influencing her. As much as you want it to work out together, that might be the case if you're lucky. But also, either way, you're very lucky when you gain clarity, even if you guys don't end up together. Because if you're not together, that just means you're not for each other. And why spend time? Why spend the rest of your life, 30, 40, 50 years with someone who isn't even meant for you, who will not help you achieve self-actualization, which is being the best person in your life, being the best version that you ever can possibly be. You don't want to be with someone who can bring the best parts of you out, who can make you a more productive person, who can make you a nicer, kinder, more compassionate, understanding person, who can make you go to work and work hard, to make you feel like a provider, to make you feel like a protector of the family. Would you not want to feel more of those feelings? Would you not want to feel like you are that type of person? Most likely you do if you're watching this, right? So, one key actionable thing that I will tell you to do today is the 5 whys. I got this from somewhere else, I'm pretty sure. I think someone else, I will give credit. Obviously, I'm not going to take credit for something I didn't think about, but if someone remembers or knows like who thought of this, I don't remember when or where I got this. Please let me know in the comments because I really don't remember, but I think it's genius. If you don't know about this, it's something so simple to remember, like 5 whys. So something happens to you. So let's say You have resentment, a very common one that people kind of struggle with. I used to struggle this a ton for years and years and years and years on end. But the main question is, why? So let's say your wife asks you to help her with the dishes, okay? And then for some reason you feel this kind of like feeling, this dislike, this annoyance, this anger, but then you do it anyway. You do the dishes anyway. And then you start to harbor even more of this resentment. Well, start asking yourself, why? Why do I feel like this? Why did I say yes to that request? And then you answer that question. And you might be like, well, I feel bad that she cooked dinner and that she also has to do the dishes. And then you ask why again. Well, why do I feel bad? And then you answer that question, then you ask another why, and a why, until you get to the end, until you get to the root cause, and you could even call this the 10 whys if you want. So it is such a simple little tool, a simple little trick that you can do starting today. You can use this in whether it's your relationship, so whether it's in literally any aspect of your life, you can use this tool. It is amazing. I use it all the time, unconsciously. It's a pretty good tool to use repeatedly, and I use it so much of the times where I'm just not even aware that I'm using it. But once you get so aware of any kind of problems that you're having in life, and really, once again, it can be your relationships, or really whatever. Once you start to gain awareness, you're going to naturally keep asking yourself questions. You're going to say, why do I feel like this? How did I feel? What even happened? Etc. You're going to naturally ask these questions the better and better you get at it. So that's pretty much for all today's video. I hope that really helped you understand kind of why you're feeling successful and you have all these things in life, but you're feeling empty in your love life, in your relationship. Please let me know in the comments if this really helped you. I'm really trying to give more value and be more helpful to fix people's problems. That's what I'm here to do. And if there's anything that was unclear, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to make another video on it that will kind of clarify things for you guys. So yeah, definitely stay tuned to more videos to come. If you have any recommendations, any questions, any feedback, I'd love to know. Just let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me a lot. And that means my videos will show up on your feed more if that's what you want. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video.